Good morning and welcome to A Closer Look. I'm your host, Linda Fontaine. Today we have a special guest. We have Stacy Seaton with Traces and Values.
Thanks for having me.
A parent trainer. Yes, thank you for coming. Tell me, what is Traces and Values?
So Traces and Values are both therapeutic programs for foster kids. So Traces is in Tennessee and Values is in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So why couldn't you just call it Traces and Values for both? Is that just an easy way for you guys to separate the two programs?
Exactly, yes. So the programs are separate, but we do the exact same line of work with Frontier Health, and we're just in different states for each one.
Well, what exactly is it that you guys do? You do foster care.
That's
and
correct.
tell me about that process.
So with foster care, there's a very long process that happens to get a kid into custody, but then into our programs. So with that, typically there's a report of abuse or neglect on a child, and so the state goes in and kind of investigates and see, they kind of try to determine, can we put in services in the home now as it is, or is the kid not safe in the home, and do they need to stay in a foster care placement? And they determine that, it's not a safe environment, it's not a stable environment, then they look at, okay, does this child need a home that is therapeutically trained, that is trained to take care of the kid who might have experienced a lot of trauma or been exposed to things that cause behaviors out of the kids. And if that's the case, then they refer the child to our programs, and we look at, what family would best fit for this child.
How long are children usually in foster care?
So that's a hard question to answer.
Okay.
Because it is so different for every single case. There are a lot of factors that determine how long a child's in care. It could be, what kind of things are the kids working on? Do they have do they need help with their behaviors? Do their parents have substance abuse issues? Do they have anger management classes they need to take? So there's a lot of factors that kind of determine what needs to be met before the child goes home. And so, kids can be with us anywhere from 6 months to a year to 2 years. But I will say that we make a lot of efforts to get that child back to their permanent home as quickly but as safely as possible. And if that doesn't happen, then of course we're looking at other options.
Like adoption?
Yes, adoption's one.
So you may not be able to answer this, maybe you can, maybe you can't. So my curiosity wants to know, of all the foster care placements you do, how many or percentage do you think end up in adoption?
Well, with our program, it's very high. With the state, so the state looks at it on a statewide basis, so that's about 21%. I would say with our program, it's around 50 or higher.
Wow, really?
Yes, and that is just for a wide range of reasons, but specifically our program is designed to help treat the kids who have a lot of behavior needs, or maybe their family is just, there's not a lot of family options. And so unfortunately, that's a situation that we find ourselves in. But what's really cool about the state of Tennessee is that if a kid is in a foster home for a certain amount of time, that foster family has the option of adopting them first if they need to be adopted.
Do you feel that, is it higher in Tennessee or Virginia, or about the same?
It's probably about the same.
Okay.
I haven't been working in Virginia as long as Tennessee, so I'm not really sure on that, but I do think that, it depends on the population as well, so that can affect it.
That is really interesting, 50%.
Yeah, I would say that. Now, I haven't looked at the stats exactly, but...
What I'm learning doing this show is that a lot of the problems that are causing a lot of these programs to become so necessary is the drugs and alcohol and that sort of thing. Is that what you're finding is one of the key reasons you have to take a child out of a home? Yes,
unfortunately, addiction is a big problem in our area, in both Tennessee and Virginia. And so the addiction is usually kind of that backer, and there's usually something that brought the kid into custody. So it might be that parents are addicted and they're not taking care of the child's immediate needs, or they've left them at home for days at a time to fend for themselves. They're not making it to school, on a regular basis. And then they go to investigate it and learn there is a substance abuse issue within this home.
And what we've been learning as well is that drug abuse is very hard to rehabilitate.
Yes. it can be.
Yes, it can be. I know that the success rate is, it can be good, but the fallback rate is very high.
Yeah, so it takes about 7 years of sobriety for someone to actually say that they're fully recovered.
Okay.
And so, you know, there's that 7-year window where they're very vulnerable. I have seen people beat addiction and get their kids back and be
Yes.
successful. But unfortunately, I've seen people who have tried really hard and they haven't been successful. And so
It's a struggle.
it is, yeah. And I think we try to look at it from both perspectives. You know, I don't think people wake up one day and just decide that they're going to become addicted. So there's usually a backstory to their lives that has led to that as well. And so we want to take care of the family as a whole, if at all possible.
So how many kids go into foster care in Traces every year?
So we care for, at any given time, about 25 kids. And so it's a revolving door a lot of times because kids get adopted or they get to go back home. And so, you know, it just depends on the time, you know, of year, the month that we're dealing with. And at any given time, we're caring for about 25 to 30
Is that
kids.
just in the Tri-Cities area?
We care for all of Northeast Tennessee. So not just the
okay.
Tri-Cities, we'll take kids from, you know, Greene County, Unicoi, anywhere
okay.
outside of that branch as well.
All right. Well, very good. And so you've just started working with the values part of it, which is
Yes.
Southwest Virginia.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so it's expanding for you, so you're going to be a lot busier.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So how can someone get involved in foster care?
So there's many ways that I suggest. I really think that people need to be on board as a family. So, you know, if one person's interested but the other isn't, it's usually not going to work that well. So you need to really sit down with your family and make that decision first and say, you know, we're interested. There's a lot of resources out there that you can read about. There's blogs, there's library books, which I'll show you in a minute. There are different resources out there on the internet that you can find to really give you a little bit more information. And we've got some information on our website as well. It's tracesne.org about foster care. So really the research is a big thing, but I think a lot of people just have that inner thing that tells them, okay, you need to do this, or, you know, look into it. So they just need to call me and talk to me about it. I'm not pushy at all. I like to educate people on it, so if people are just curious about it, I'm more than happy to just talk with you, and if you're not interested beyond that, that's okay.
So do you find that more people that do foster care have families, or are they empty nesters, or are they families that don't have children yet, or what do you find?
All of those.
Okay.
So we have families from all different walks of life, all different stages of life. I will say a large percentage of our parents are empty nesters. And I say that because I think it's a big misconception of, oh, I'm too old, or, you know, I've got kids out of the home. But I've heard story after story of my babies are gone and I just can't stay in this quiet, empty house.
Oh.
So we want to foster kids.
And that would probably be a really good family because they have raised kids. They've probably gone through all sorts of situations with kids.
Right.
And so perhaps they're a stable family, and you've checked them out to know that, okay, they've had kids, they've gone through all these different
Right.
things, and they're prepared.
Yeah, exactly. But even the parents that have never even like touched a child, you know, maybe
Yes.
they've never been around a child, or they don't have any family members that have children, we train a lot. And so on the front end, our parents are getting a whole lot of training to help support them. Now, you can't walk into it thinking I know everything, because hands-on experience is untouchable, I think, you know. But we try to really support them and give them that training from the get-go so that you do feel supported and you do feel like you have some kind of knowledge about what you're doing.
And this would be good for, I think, maybe some families that aren't sure if they want to have children, or they don't want to have children, but they do want to be able to help somebody in their life.
Right.
And foster care being something that could be permanent or maybe not permanent, this might be a good way for them to be able to give back.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, we've got other options other than just foster care. So if someone says, you know, I really can't commit like my entire life to foster care, or my 24/7, we can do something called respite with our families. And respite is really cool. Our families that have full-time placements, you know, sometimes you've got to go out out of town or on
yeah.
you know, you want to take it just a couple's vacation or something, and just naturally, like you would send your own biological children to grandma and grandpa's, you could send the kids who are in your home to another Trace's family.
Oh, okay.
So that, you know, you can have that one-on-one time. And then we also have the Safe Place program. I don't know if you've heard of it, but the Safe Place program is very temporary, and it's for kids that are not in custody, who maybe have been, you know, kicked out of their home or they've ran away and they need a safe spot, you know, safe place to stay.
Interesting.
And our families can house them as well.
Oh,
and
that's great.
it's a yellow yield looking sign. You'll see it. It's like McDonald's and
Oh, yes.
Chick-fil-A, places like that.
Yes, I have seen that.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of options.
Well, this is great. One thing I love about doing this show is I learn about so many programs I didn't even know existed in our area.
Yeah.
And I want to learn more about this because I told you right before we went on the air, this is something I was always interested in. So I do need to learn more about this. And let's stop on that note and go to a break right now because we've got a lot more to talk about.
Yes.
And we'll be back in just a few moments after these messages.